Hello Dairy Today viewers, from your advisory team at Stewart-Peterson, here's your dairy market week in review. Let's start by taking a look at our dairy product prices compared to a week ago. Cheese prices continue to struggle this week. We had blocks down a notable 9 1/4 cents, barrels off an additional 3 3/4 cents. We'll focus on that cheese market in just a second. Butter also slipping into new lows this week. Not a lot of positive action to report there. However, powders market were a spotlight this week. We saw gains in both our whey and non-fat dry milk futures. Some of those individual contract months making new contract highs. A very good note as we close on this Friday. Class 3 prices really countered the trends of our spot cheese market and were able to put together some solid gains, particularly here on Friday. February and March led the way higher with gains over 30 cents, but we did see positive action all the way throughout 2012 compared to a week ago. Class 4 prices also moved higher to close this week, again with a lot of that positive support coming from the powder market. Gains anywhere from 15 on up to 30 cents as we look through the front half of 2012. Let's touch back to that cheese market now, as we talked about the spot cheese markets being lower, however our class 3 market moving higher, and we're seeing that two-sided battle between the bulls and the bears continue to develop. And here's what we mean by that. Let's start by just taking a look at our weekly block barrel average price chart and talking about some of the bearish concerns that you can draw from this chart. We've seen 5 consecutive weeks of lower prices and a break of the fall lows, which generally provide pretty good support from a seasonal and historical perspective. So we want to be concerned about the continuing weakness that we're seeing from some of the price chart indicators. However, as we look to the other side of the coin, there's a lot of good things going on as value buying continues to take place. This chart behind me now is our weekly NAS cheese sales, looking at our blocks and barrels in total. And as we look, we can paint a very seasonally typical pattern. If we look at these high prices that are high buying rates that we saw throughout the summer, we see a typical decline into early fall. Once prices dropped off the $2.15 level early this fall, we saw a big boost in our overall cheese purchases. And now this fall, with prices setting back again, we're actually putting in a new high for the year, over 22 million pounds being purchased throughout this week as reported by the USDA, and we continue to see that value buying take place. That was especially noted here on Friday with strong gains in our futures market, and as we close this week, it looks like that bullish argument is starting to prevail for our cheese market, and that of course will be continued to be debated next week. Price action again saw a very strong close this Friday. Earlier this week we did move lower, but the positive action keeps us back within this more narrow range for our January price as we look at our class 3 market, and leaves the opportunity to build on that working into next week and potentially turn back to these highs around the 1750 area. As we discussed last week, if this level does fail in terms of technical support, that does open up the window of risk, moving back down to 16 and 16 1/4 based on some of these prior lows. We also want to keep the bigger picture in mind as we look just more globally this week. We talked about the US dollar having a strong week last week, and wanted to see if we could finally break through this double top barrier, looking at the October and November highs on the US dollar index. With some of that uncertainty and concern that came out earlier in the week in regards to the euro debt situation, our US dollar had a strong week and was able to move through that double top resistance. And of course, we want to be aware that a strengthening dollar can have a negative impact on our commodity prices in a general picture. So as we look ahead to next week, a couple items we want to be aware of. Again, we're seeing this very interesting trade develop in our cheese market. We want to challenge the value buying that we've seen develop into positive price action within our spot market. We'll continue to watch some of those outside markets, particularly the euro debt situation as it's impacting the US dollar and other commodity prices. And finally, next week is a big week for our milk reports. On Monday we'll have milk production, Thursday cold storage, and Friday livestock slaughter. From your advisory team at Stewart-Peterson, I'm Stephen Schella for Dairy Today and AgWeb.com.